Hello, everyone. I wanted to discuss an idea. This idea is not focused on metaphysics or divinity or trying to create a sort of framework of that. It's more focused on a human being that finds themselves on Earth, and it's just an interest and a zooming in into the metaphor that what if life was a video game? I think many people think this, especially people who work in video game companies. But what I wanted to say is that what could the sentence accessing level 2 of the Earth game imply? I think I'm one of those human beings who, in this moment, has found a sort of structural, visual. I found a way that that sentence makes sense, and I want to explain it here. So the first consideration is that I'm not commenting directly on reality. I'm just following up the statement, what if life was a video game? What if? Nothing absolute, nothing set in stone. Just what if life is a video game? The two levels that I envisioned to it was that the first level of life's video game is the game of self. Trying to know yourself, trying to wonder what is this self. And it's not like, you have to do this or, it's something tragic would happen. It's more like, hey, you're in this world, a traveler. You are journeying in this lifetime for a certain amount of time, and then during this time, the questions of the depth of reality can be, acknowledged. Deep questions on life can be acknowledged. They're important. But we're not taught they're important because sometimes when you focus on building something externally, you forget to look at what you're building from different internal angles. So the first level of life's video game is the level of self. It's literally a game of self. You are a self present in a place. 8 billion human beings, you know, based on their experiences, their journey is made evident. Their experiences and decisions. Level 2 of this video game, which is the essence of this talk, it's kind of like the gem I found to share here, you know? It's kind of like I've mined this idea from my mind to kind of share with the world. So level 2 of life's video game is in some sense a service-oriented reality. What I mean by this is that there was this incredible quote by Muhammad Ali, the great Muhammad Ali, the boxer, right? The great boxer. And he said something in the lines, I don't know if I'm remembering it accurately, but he says that serving others is the rent we pay to live on earth. And so I thought about a structure of, for me, I'm pretty much someone who, like a film, like a film on replay, like a video on replay, I constantly try to see, okay, how is the species interacting with its circumstance? It's as if there's selves everywhere. There's 8 billion selves, 8 billion external selves, but each self has various internal angles that are rendered as like, in inner selves. Do you know? It's kind of like how the Japanese would say the man is the room he's in. What that means is the room is not a physical room. The room is the state of attention. So what I'm trying to paint here is this idea that if level 1 of Earth was to, in some sense, figure out what the self is, level 2 is like you figured out what the self is and you realize it's a deeper relationship of attention with existence at its core. I'm someone who, sure, one position of looking at reality is like, okay, a human being on a rock spinning in the middle of a vast cosmic activity. That's one view. But the more simpler, I would say, kind of sieved view is that it's attention being existence instantaneously. When we wonder about the self, are wondering about how attention is existing to itself, how consciousness is present. We're wondering about the presence of existence. And human beings have classified themselves in accordance to how deeply they have observed and witnessed this presence of existence. The deeper your view on the presence of existence, the more dimensions you're seeing to reality. This is why mystics are simultaneously incredibly creative people. Why? Because reality is not just a chase for like hunger, you know. It's kind of like there's something positioned and existing and experiencing, and it's as if we're, uh, you know, somebody had said human beings are a unique class of objects, but we're an object that is subjectively maintaining itself. And what at the core essence of this subjective maintenance is actually doing the maintaining, it is unknown. But because I have had a faithful return, to me it has come to the sense that there is the presence of a higher power, but not a higher power that can subjectively be contained. What I'm trying to say is that aside from metaphysics, if we put that aside and just look at human existence, we find a human being living in a sort of situation, in a physical, elemental, like virtual reality game, right? Where at night when we sleep, we kind of log out of this virtual elemental reality, right? So I was looking at the character in an existential game and wondering what is the purpose to the value of knowing that you exist. Really what life is like figuring out what is the value of existence, right? And based on what you've looked at, you tend to formulate, an opinion. And if you don't look at many things, right, you become rooted in a view. But sometimes the roots of that view are kind of like connected to a truth. For me, level 2, let's say there were level 1 humans and level 2 humans, okay? The level 2 humans are not just trying to find a satisfaction of a sort of narcissistic survival, because survival is narcissistic in nature. It's like the whole Machiavellian chapter of reality, chapter of history. I'm simply suggesting that a level 1 human being is just seeing their self being the source of meaning and value. A level 2 human being has realized, no, life is not just some character that appeared in a game. Life is more of like, how is this character living with the game? Not just in the game, not just questions about, okay, how am I here? More like, okay, how should everyone be here? Do you know? That's when you really become, an advanced human. When the advancement of humanity is so important that you wonder about what other ways, imagine there's like foods that nobody has made yet, ever. Like there will be some chefs that will make a food that will like, surprise everyone. Right? So similarly, when instead of food, we think about the structure of civilization. To me, I realize that this experience that I have had with faith has been, in some sense, a wake-up call that my attention should go to the earthly life, you know? And the earthly life suddenly, through the context of time, becomes a very vast objective, very vast mission, So I'm saying that level two human beings, just like Muhammad Ali said, are living in a symbiosis with the collective system. If we're an individual part of the system, the individual is not just being like, how am I being an individual? The individual is like, how am I being an individual in a collective? And if the collective is the background subconscious influence to my individuality, then the collective needs to update. It's kind of like, imagine there's a certain culture, right? A certain way, rules you've made to like using a football court, right? And then imagine there's a football court and there's like, you can only play soccer here. You can't play, any other. You can only play, let's say, imagine there's a basketball court and they're like, you can only play soccer here. You know, what I'm trying to say is we tend to stick to fixed truth in the hope of a looping comfort. But in actuality, what we find is a setting. It's literally the most unique situation. If philosophers had one task and that was to like kind of review what's going on, this review that I have in this moment is simply like 8 billion plus, that's where we're heading, of points of intelligent engagement with a vast existential map. Okay? What I'm trying to say is that the level 2 human being is no longer an individual because they've realized they cannot live without the collective. It is literally a symbiosis of serving your world as it serves you and as it has served you. Human beings are experiencing levels of psychological life that many, first of all, like the rest of the species on Earth, to me, are all sleeping. Do you know? Somebody asked me, how do I see trees? I see them as like sleeping souls, you know? Like oxygen is the dreams of a tree. That should be an episode on its own, you know? When trees dream, biological entities can breathe. So anyways, where I'm going with this is that I am suggesting that the level 2 game of life is an individual that has understood their self is codependent with the world. That means there's a way to live where you kind of isolate yourself. But we witnessed during, the corona plague, we witnessed that in isolation, the human sense of self feels incomplete because there's a whole world here. And we need to focus on building a civilization where people's service to their realm, to their world, is also their vitality. Because that's how it is. We just haven't realized it. That means they don't raise children being like, yo, you gotta serve this species in the most epic way, kid, right? But teachers don't teach that. Teachers don't teach that. Teachers are like, all right, kid, this is what happened. And if you get bored when I'm explaining what happened in the past, you're going to be out of this classroom. And the kid's like, okay, let me experience the enforcement of a fixed educational system. What I'm saying is education is really how deep this life is a question for you. And when you go to answer those deep questions, you come across all the content, that has led to that answer, right? Led to the answer of the deep questions. And something very beautiful about life is it's not just like 24/7, this is the answer, this is the answer. We shouldn't be a species that is behaving as if every moment we know everything. It's not the case. But if we treat it as if we are unique positions of attention in a world, then everybody suddenly has a glow that we missed, that the species and the cultural collectivity missed, right? What that means is there is no really smart or stupid DNAs. Maybe yes, there is, but I'm saying the smart and stupidity is not dependent on the DNA. It's kind of like going in an art gallery and being like, this artwork is stupid, that artwork is smart, right? But what you realize, it's the inspiration of expression that presented itself in that moment, right? That means human beings should not be seen as like this is a good person, this is a bad person, this is a smart person. That's a wheel. That's literally like a wheel is spinning in your mind. Do you know? Granted, there's seasons on the planet, but like to what degree are we considering actual gears in our mind? you know? So what I'm saying is that I feel that human beings this whole time could have been living in a way where the value of their work, of their existential expression, the value of their existence is in this honor of service. I don't know if people have experienced this, right? But it's like it's one thing to like give one person a cup of tea, and then it's another thing to give the whole species a cup of tea. Do you know what I mean? Like that's the feeling. The feeling is a massive shift in the scale of our efforts, of the value of our efforts. That means it's kind of like we're these creatures in this place. We don't have an accurate view on reality, so we're all trying to figure it out. In our attempts to figure out what reality means, there has been collisions of what I would say are like the ships of truth. For me, when I see truth, there is something about it where it's also like a massive spaceship or mothership, but it's not an external visible mothership. It's an internal. Uh, it's like being inside the boundary of an idea and reality, and that's where the conflict has began, really. I consider, because these talks of mine, I'm just literally just running, just focusing and trying to concentrate on the idea of the advancement of civilization. I decided like this is what all these talks, the next talks, are going to be about. Not about telling people what the true nature of reality is, more like seeing like, okay, what systems are simultaneously happening. That means like when a human being looks at a sign, I'm looking at a sign right now, of different businesses in this plaza I'm in. And to me, when I think about that, I'm like, okay, what sort of environment is consciousness attending? In what manner, like imagine an eagle gracefully lands on a branch. With what manner is consciousness waking up to the meaning of the moment? I find there's a fascinating thing about life, and it's behind what we don't know. That's the cool part. Because if we consider something to be true, then we live in that truth. For me, faith has become something where various shifts, it was as if a filterization of how my attention was interacting with the environment. But I shouldn't say filterization, I should say it was like a purifier filter. Do you know? A purifying filter. Do you know? where reality simplifies and one becomes honest with what they don't know. Really. Like there's something in that I think it's like literally the intellect updates by realizing what it doesn't know and then having an infinite vast view of what it can know. Like if you look at a car and you're like, I don't know how the engine of this car works. Yeah, you don't. But now you can know because you've noticed what you don't know. And I think this is really the essence of like the street smart people in bazaars of like old times where they were just constantly looking at where is the value in reality. You know, it's not just one of those things where we clone everybody in thinking just behaving in one way is the most advanced way. In reality, it's kind of like 8 billion human beings, due to the nature of having a different DNA, are like 8 billion different plants. You know, like there is, when you look at, for example, let's say an apple tree and then like a berry bush, it's like they're both they have both an equivalent fascination in how that system is designed. Do you know? I find that the species and everybody should wonder about, like, okay, let's say we are living beings, okay? And right now, for example, in technology, they say the most advanced thing like they can create is a robot that is like the human being, right? Like that's something where human beings are like, yo, and then there's the Turing test and all that, right? Or Isaac Asimov's laws on, robotic laws, you know, like the robot shouldn't hurt humans, etc. You know, but what I'm saying is that if we were able to create something equivalent to ourselves, like that's being kept as the epitome of like how advanced like robotics can go for now, right? Like it's an advanced step in robotics to create a robot that is like the human being, like exactly like a human being, even though that's there's a Mysterian angle where it's impossible. But now I want you to think about it, that it's not one person building the robot that's like as advanced as the human being, but it's as if we want to build a civilization. And the word civilization is beautiful because it means the overall view on the system of all the systems in external reality that human beings are functioning. Literally, like the human civilization, those two words are like as if the planet is the civilization of humanity. It's as if a species saw so ahead of all the other species that it began building, you know, an advanced world in a world that wasn't advanced yet. Our minds are living ahead of our bodies, they're not behind. Consciousness is ahead of the game that it's playing already. So where I'm going with this is, imagine just like that person trying to almost about to build a robot, or or imagine the first inventor who builds like floating, like flying hover technology. Like imagine you press a button, you've created some sort of field and you start flying there, or some sort of suit or something, some nanotechnology next level thing that helps everybody float and fly like. But what I'm saying is that moment where your mind just, I guess the term would be, dabbles with the idea of the most advanced system. And the most advanced system is life. So the most advanced civilization is a living civilization. So would human beings in that civilization would be treating civilization as if it's a massive collective living being, as if there's two frameworks. There is the internal affairs of humanity, and then there's the external affairs of humanity. There's the micro and the macro affairs of humanity. The macro affair of humanity has to do with, like, as if all the people alive in the present, we are like archers, and the children of the future generations are like the bow that we all hold, and it's as if we're sending civilization into its greatest future. Just like imagine, you know, somebody sends off someone in the greatest way. So level two human beings, just for the sake of this episode and the metaphor of if what if life was a video game, level two human beings are living in a living earth. That means the most advanced system is an intelligent one. What does intelligent mean? Intelligence mean? Intelligence is a massive thing where no one person can define. What I could tell you in how I've seen it, if somebody was like, "What is intelligence?" I would tell them how far you see. To me, the most intelligent people see so far that they are super calm right now. They're very calm people. The calmer the person, I actually think the more that person is seeing. The more agitated and turbulent the individual, the less they're seeing. They could be seeing like one sniper vision of a great view, but at the same time, if you can't calmly enter the room, then it's as if you will anger the room. Anyways, level two humans in this video game of Earth is a character that its life force is dependent, is it's as if we don't just love, if achieving if completing the mission of level 1 Earth, like it would be the Earth game, it would be like loving yourself, reaching that point where you can love yourself, right? Which is an equivalent also to forgive yourself and to humble yourself in the presence of the true thing you're actually being, not just, you know, a sort of fantastical uh, divergence, you know. Our value is not in just any skill, but it's as if in an advanced civilization, the value of how advanced you are is in how far you're advancing civilization. Because human beings, through the wilderness of the past, through the savageness of our ancestors, we haven't reached that, we haven't experienced yet the efficiency of an intellectual collective advancement. That means we're not like it's a physical evolution here. Now it has come a sort of evolution of how the eyes of human beings are shaping the world. That's important. And for me, when I talk about an advanced civilization, it is not an advanced civilization that is devoid of God. Because what God is the archetype for the greatest presence. It's literally one of the most advanced reference points to intelligence. There's something very beautiful about the idea of God. But at the same time, there's something very ugly about human nature as well. For me right now, like, believe it or not, it's so bizarre. I feel the whole species feels as if we've all like outgrown a war. We're too mature to start wars, you know. And right now that wars are happening, it's kind of like I think most people can't believe it's happening. Do you know why? Because our minds have stepped so much more forward than just physical destruction. That physical destruction is boring. Do you know that means there was a point where I was like, aren't evil people bored of just destruction? Isn't it boring? Like nothing's left after. It's like what did you achieve? Do you know? So for me, it was as if like if somebody came, imagine you're a human being, right? And you're in this massive system, you're part of this like uh human crew. And it's as if like the human being, somebody coming up to the human being and being like, okay, what's the greatest value of what a human being can do? What is the greatest value? Like, if we were to forget right now, for an instance, all cultural frameworks, all our views on like what reality is, and if we just look in the present, just simply, Da Vinci was like, simplicity is the most ultimate sophistication. In that simplicity, to look at what is actually here, we will discover that life is an interaction with the rest of it. Level 2 is conscious of that. A level 2 human being is not saying like, yo, what am I gonna do? A level 2 human being is like, what is my species gonna do in this void? And what advantages does it have? Could there be a very incredible advantage that millions, billions of people on the planet are religious? Could it be an advantage that technology has gone so forth? Could worlds live like tenants in the same planet? Does the species have the maturity to usher in? Imagine you landed, imagine right now, all of us got on a spaceship, okay, and we went to another civilization similar to like Earth, who had grown, like imagine to the same level of maturity of our species on Earth, right? And we landed in that civilization, but we realized, oh my God, these guys are a bit more advanced. And it's as if you walk into the library, you walk into the coffee shop, you walk into the showroom of businesses, you know? It's as if like wherever you go, imagine us that are visitors to that civilization, they're all functioning in the most advanced way. Imagine like a person playing chess and always making the best computer move, like the closest to the computer move, or an excellent move all the time, a brilliant move, right? An advanced civilization would be a civilization where brilliancy on a massive collective level towards an advanced future is normal. That means if you see somebody advancing and solving the problems of one area of life, you're like, yo, good job, you're advancing civilization. Now, how should I advance civilization? Do you know? If we can get to that point, and there is always incredible opportunity in efficiently advancing. That means just think about all the styles of conquerors, all the styles of leadership. Like all they had in common, I would say what great leadership had in common was that how is the moment advancing? Anybody who asks this has attained a level of mind that can wonder about how not my eyes are just seeing value and I'm okay with it, but how is a collective system present? That's a level 2 welcoming. Anyways, thank you for listening. The advancement of civilization is the greatest idea known to man. And don't forget that, because if the future generations forget it, what was the point of getting here at all? What is the point of having 8 billion advanced minds, or minds that have the potential of advancement? Sometimes you can not have something but already have the potential for it. 8 billion creatures, on planet Earth, of trying to function as a civilization. It's all these individual points. That means, believe it or not, right, there is the savior of the human species is the collective efficiency of it. And of course, there are forces beyond us. That's what being religious means. So there's a humility there, that the advancement of civilization is not just up to man. It is the will of the creative force. Thank you.